Hey, Mijo and Mija, welcome back to Mijo Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime performance. Benito Bowl happened. It was amazing. It was a moment. I personally was a big fan of the halftime show, and I know a lot of people were, as we saw on social media and the articles and, the pop newspapers and everything. So I thought, why not discuss it on the next podcast episode? I feel like this has everything to do with culture, identity, first gen. There's a lot of intersectionality with this performance, and I want to break down like the Easter eggs that I found, what I took away from the performance because I felt like it was filled with a lot of meaning and a lot of intention. So, first things first, I want to say this is the Super Bowl's first ever fully Spanish performance for this like halftime Super Bowl show. I think the selection of the artist was very big. As everyone knows, it caused a lot of frenzy online, but not only was it big because it was a full Spanish performance, but I think it was also significant because of the individual that's being selected, in this occasion being Bad Bunny, with the current times that we're in, right now, across the board, you could say. So there was a lot of feedback, there was a lot of backlash for it, but I think bringing Bad Bunny onto such a worldwide stage, because people watch the Super Bowl across the globe, was very important. And I really applaud the NFL for doing that. Bad Bunny was able to bring not just Puerto Rico to the Super Bowl halftime show, he was able to bring culture, he was able to bring Latinidad, he was able to make history as the biggest like Latino artist to do that in his time. Full Spanish, no translation. It was really just embracing the Latino, culture, not only in the visual performance, but in the music that was selected and, everything that Latino culture, what that means. So it really wasn't just about Latino representation. It was kind of about reframing and taking a second take of what America means to the world and, of course, to the United States. I think Bad Bunny did a really good job at making sure that his performance was a direct response to the people that criticized him, the people that said he wasn't American, the people that said he wasn't American enough, which I hate to break it to you guys, but Puerto Rico is territory of the United States. So Bad Bunny is an American. And I think a lot of the times people get lost between other sectors and other avenues that I'm not going to go down, but really, Bad Bunny is an American, and Bad Bunny, believe it or not, like did a great job at showcasing Latino culture and I believe Latino culture in America, which was powerful. I want to start the breaking down of everything with the outfit that Bad Bunny chose. So I did some research. Not everything is what I interpreted. I did some research to try and also get some accurate facts about it. And he was in full white from top to bottom. I think it was rumored that some of the pieces might have been from Zara. Not sure if that's true or not, but him being dressed in full white, he himself said was an omen to his late uncle. His late uncle was, a big inspiration for him. And I think the fact that he wore white could have also been a little bit of a echo to the traditional like Hibaro attire that's worn. But he was wearing like a white jersey, white on white, and the back of the jersey said Ocasio, which is one of his last names. It comes from his mother's side of the family, and it was his uncle's last name, of course. And the number 64 is his uncle Cuquito's birth year. So he said that that's the reason why he chose to wear what he did. There was an article that quoted him where he said himself, "I dedicated my performance to him before it began. I'm sure he saw it. He was present and felt proud of his nephew," which speaks volumes with the meaning behind the performance, not just to us, the people, but to Benito himself further than his career. Because, of course, this is like huge for his career, but it has that personal connection to him. For the opening of the show, we get to see, the show start, at least on the screen, with this video that's played. It's a gentleman that starts it off, and then the screen pans to like a field of sugarcane workers with, they're dressed in white with pava hats. And I think that agricultural imagery kind of reference a little bit of that, like labor, and in a way, kind of like the slave labor that went behind harvesting sugarcane. Sugarcane is known to be like, the exploitation of workers that harvested it. And the white outfit, from what I was able to research online, really is kind of like the poorer working class individual who works out in the field, who wears the, jibaros, and that's typically the outfit that these folks wear. So the takeaway from that is, he really opened up the show with tradition, with labor, and not really with luxury, because we've seen other artists open up the show with like this grand entrance, or like this momentous occasion and like the flashy and all of that. And not to say that that's wrong. Of course, every artist has their own genre, their own, story that they're trying to paint, the narrative that they want the viewer to go through. But I feel like that was important for Benito to really be intentional with how he was starting the performance. The biggest, thing from the performance was the neighborhood and La Casita. La Casita is the famous casita that was shown on tour. It was part of the stage design for his tour, but the neighborhood that he walks you through in the middle of like the sugarcane field was very, very intentional as well. I remember, seeing the coconut stand. There's a group of elderly men playing dominoes at one of the tables. There's a girl getting her nails done. There's a piragua stand, which is like the shaved ice. There's a guy behind a counter with, he's like selling gold. So I think all of that really just represents the Latino culture. And it's something that's very broad to many Latino cultures. It's not just Mexican. It's not just Puerto Rican. It's really like broad. We share a lot of this in our communities, whether it's the nails or whether it's corners where our elderly like gather to play games. One of my favorite ones was Via's Tacos. They were in like a little corner. It was a little taco stand. I remember sitting here watching the show, and immediately I was like, that's Via's Tacos. Via's Tacos, for those of you that do not know, it's a very popular like gem here in Los Angeles, and they really like rose up from, a street taco stand to multiple locations, and they've quickly have become an LA favorite. So for him to include real business owners throughout this little neighborhood that he created, I personally was a big fan of that, because it went to show how intentional he wanted to be with the performance. We also saw two boxers that were a part of the performance. They're the two boxers that he kind of like goes in between and under. They're boxing each other. That was Sander Sayas and Emiliano Vargas. So Sander's a Puerto Rican boxer and Emiliano's a Mexican boxer. And in the Latino culture, boxing is huge. And we have a lot of Latino boxers that have made it out into the professional world. And it's just rooted in the culture. So for him to bring them onto this national stage, worldwide, global stage, you could say, was great. The casita was, of course, my favorite part, just because it really like sums up and dictates this entire like era of Bad Bunny, and it's so badass within itself. We saw celebrity cameos at the casita. So first and foremost, Pedro Pascal was there, Cardi B, Karol G, Young Miko, Jessica Alba. I think the fact that he included them kind of as, pioneers of the Latino culture is really, really, really great within itself. It was really just a neighborhood collectively built together of celebrating community and it's really what made it powerful. And I really, really, really think that that was one of the great things of this performance. Another one of my favorite parts from the casita is the part where he falls through the roof, which I thought was like great. So for those of you that didn't watch it, Bad Bunny falls through the roof, kind of like when he ends of the end of him being on top of the stage. He falls through the roof, which by the way was pre-recorded for those of you that didn't catch that, because I know some people were like, "Oh my god!" Like, he fell through the roof. Like it was pre-recorded, some good editing right there, but I thought that was also powerful, kind of like, like breaking through the ceiling and like kicking butt. And, you're kind of like disrupting that stability and just kind of being like, bam. And the way he kicks the door when he comes out to the front of the casita, it's kind of like, it's just badass. It's Bad Bunny really just saying, I'm going to open my own doors, like kick through and make it happen. That part of him coming out of the casita, we start hearing old school reggaeton, which I'm not going to lie, the first song was Dale by Don Omar. I swear to God, for a second, I was like, he's bringing him out. He's bringing him out. And I got so excited, but it was only like a few seconds. And then it quickly cuts to other old school reggaeton. And at first I was like, is he bringing these people out? Like, what's going on? But it's really just an omen to like, the classic songs that we grew up listening to from like the early 2000s, and really like these pioneers in reggaeton that kind of started the genre and made reggaeton what it is today. The people that were the trailblazers for the Bad Bunnies that we have nowadays. So I think that within itself was amazing and was powerful. There's a part on the screen where we see the Sapo Concho. And for those of you that don't know, Sapo Concho is a critically endangered Puerto Rican crescent toad. And it's really a symbol of like the environment and the cultural vulnerability. I think a lot of these little Easter eggs were tied to, gentrification and the displacement that the themes that we see in the album Debí Tirar Más Fotos. The frog really was going through extinction because of the displacement of the gentrification in Puerto Rico. So for him to bring the frog to the Super Bowl and to make it a part of this era of Bad Bunny really goes to speak that, the way that I interpreted it was extinction isn't really just about animals. It could be about cultures and it can be about people. And I really felt like that was kind of like, of course, a nod to the toad itself, but in a way like a double meaning, basically saying like, hey, what I said, I feel like extinction can't only just be animals, it can also be culture. There's a part in his performance where he gives like a short like speech. He says, "Porque nunca dejé de creer en mí y tú también deberías de creer en ti. Vales más de lo que piensas." I really thought that was powerful because he's right in the front of the frame of the camera. He's directly speaking to the audience. And I think it's powerful because he's also speaking to the young generations that are sitting at home or sitting in the seats watching this performance. So for him to directly speak to the audience and basically say like, look how far I've made it because I believed in myself, and you should believe in yourself because you can go as far with your dreams and aspirations. I think it's huge, specifically for first gen kids watching. I really, really do think it's going to make a mark. And I remember sitting here and just being like, wow, like there's so much that's going on and it's all fast paced. It's like too much to take away. And it was amazing. It really was. One of the biggest talks of the performance was the wedding that happened right before Lady Gaga opened. I did research and there was actually an engagement and a wedding that took place. So the engagement was at the beginning when he's kind of going through the sugarcane fields. He just passes like Vias Tacos. He passes the guy that's behind the gold counter. The guy gives him a box, which is like a red box with a ring. And then he gives it off to someone that's, performing there. The guy kneels down and basically asks his girlfriend, like, do you want to marry me? That's a real couple. So I briefly read an article where the gentleman said that, they were part of the show, and she didn't know about it at first. And they were trying to like, bounce around and make different ways of like, oh, we're just going to stand here during rehearsal. But she kind of started getting suspicious because as they got closer to the Super Bowl, they had to rehearse it as it was going to be performed. And it's basically a real couple. That real couple, the one that's at the beginning, they're from Tampa. And it's a couple that got engaged at the Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show. The couple that got married, the wedding scene, that is a couple from Southern California. And if you haven't heard already, that couple invited Bad Bunny to their wedding. And in response, Bad Bunny said, hey, come be part of the show. So, they already had gotten married, but they were there to really like be a part of the show, which I thought was amazing. And I think another thing that was like awesome was the kid sleeping on the chair. Bad Bunny singing, and he goes over and he kind of like nods at the kid, and he's kind of like, hey, like, wake up, dude, like, don't fall asleep. Everyone relates to that. And I'm sure every Latino in the audience was literally like laughing because that's so common. And we've all at one point in our life been that kid that fell asleep on the chairs, on the sweaters that you put down on top of the chair so you can have some form of comfort. We've all been there. We've all seen it. We've been that kid before. So to have even like small sprinkles of, things that kids and first gen folks and Latinos in general are going to like be like, hey, dude, that's so funny. Again, I can't stop saying how intentional this performance was. Another part that really stuck out to a lot of people was the Grammy moment. It's Benito coming over to a family watching his Grammy acceptance speech on the screen. And, the kid gets up and Benito gives him the Grammy award. At first, everyone thought that it was little Liam from, the young kid that unfortunately was separated from his family, through the ice matters that happened. But it wasn't Liam. It was a child actor, and it was later revealed that it was meant to be Benito giving himself, his younger self, the award, which kind of like makes your skin kind of get goosebumps because you're kind of like seeing how it's all full circle. He's tying in his culture. He's tying in brief moments of reflection. He's telling us, he believed in himself. He's showing us that he's giving his younger self the award. So it's really like, in a way, it's a journey of healing for himself. It's a journey of reconnection. We talked about the outfit and what that meant to him and his uncle, and, remembering his uncle through that. It's really like, it's first gen immigrant kid validation. I know a lot of us can relate to that moment, and we might have not caught it at first, but once we started seeing things on social media, it really hit differently for sure. Another big moment that some people might have just thought it was, effects or whatever, was the electric poles that you see during El Apagón. You see these workers climbing up these like sparking towers, like power lines. And for the context of that, it's referencing Hurricane Maria, the blackouts that took place during the hurricane, and how the government really neglected the situation and how the infrastructure wasn't at the capacity to, deal with El Apagón. So El Apagón is known to be a protest anthem, and for him to bring that to such a global stage in the United States, is activism within itself. And it's really advocacy for his community and where he comes from. And I really, really, really thought how powerful for him to have this song that a lot of people party to, at the clubs and in los antros. And it's an activism song. It has that double meaning. And he gave that visual at the halftime performance. Amazing. Also, for those of you that didn't catch it, he was carrying around the light blue Puerto Rico flag, which is not the official U.S. aligned flag. The official flag, it's a darker blue, but from what I was able to gauge online from other Puerto Ricans is that the lighter blue flag has a symbol of independence, and it's really a movement that references the banning of the flag in history. And for him to bring out the flag that he best feels represents not only his people, but the flag that he feels, identifies himself as a Puerto Rican and really just defines him. I thought that was bold. I thought it was classy. I thought it was very loud to the Puerto Rican viewers out there. And it's something that I personally can't, relate to because I'm not from Puerto Rico, but I'm pretty sure the viewers that were watching it from Puerto Rico connected to that, and it spoke volumes to them. So all in all to say, he's walking around the stage with the Puerto Rico flag, and then at one point we start to see the other crew members come out. You first see the USA flag, followed by the Puerto Rico flag, and then followed by other flags from across the Americas. And then there's a moment in there where he says, "God bless America." And then he starts listing a bunch of different countries: Mexico, Colombia, Cuba, Venezuela. He even says Canada, which was funny because there was a lot of Canadians that were starting to post videos saying oh yeah, I'm basically Latino, and they were doing these amazing videos because Bad Bunny called out Canada, which goes to show how thoughtful he was with crafting that. At the end of the performance, not towards the end, it's right before the part where he starts singing Debí tirar más fotos, he holds up a football right before that. And the football says, "Together we are America." So mind you, he said, "God bless America." He listed the Americas, like the America continent, and then he starts to list all of these countries. And the football says, "Together we are America." I think that within itself goes to show how Bad Bunny was intentional with the way that he used America. And I'm sure a lot of Americans didn't really catch that. But America's a continent, and it's not just a country. And I know a lot of times we tend to think that the United States of America, that's America within itself. And a lot of people think that, especially because, we're called Americans, but America's a continent. And I really, really, really think that his message there was very clear. His message was, together we are America. There's no single America. There's no country that's America on its own. The continent is America, right? And I feel like he redefined America in real time, and he painted the picture out for people saying, all of us together make up America. And it's impactful within itself. I wanted to save this part towards the end, the part of the guest performers. So Bad Bunny had two performers, the first one being Lady Gaga. So first and foremost, I'm going to be transparent with everyone. I did not expect Lady Gaga to be one of the guests for the halftime show. I wasn't a fan of it. I really feel like Lady Gaga, there's not really a connection to it. However, I will clarify and say I love Lady Gaga. I'm a Lady Gaga fan. I do think that this was more so a way of easing out the impact of the Super Bowl halftime show, because he could have gone 10 times more, stronger with more Latino performers. But I feel like this was a way to soften that because of the political tension that was raised with the Super Bowl performance and just the announcement itself and everything that followed. I really feel like this was a strategic move to kind of like ease that out and to not, you know, to not go too overboard. And I can see more so the NFL making that call, not so much Bad Bunny. And I can see, of course, Bad Bunny has said in the past that he's a Lady Gaga fan. So I can see them kind of trying to find a way to ease it out, more so kind of like trying to prevent some like crisis communications aspect to happen. But Lady Gaga wore a beautiful light blue dress with a flor de maga, which is Puerto Rico's national flower. So even then, she herself tied in the culture to her song, like that specific rendition of her song with Bruno Mars, adding like the salsa beat to it was amazing. Did she add to the message? Or did she distract from the message? I feel like those are questions that we all have our own individual answers to. But overall, I still thought it was classy. I still thought she did an amazing job. Did I expect a Latino performer to come out? I'm not going to lie. I did. Was I a fan of her coming out for this specific performance? No. But I do acknowledge that it could have been a strategic placement because of everything that came with the announcement of Bad Bunny being the performer during these times specifically. Second performer was Ricky Martin. Martin, I don't know why I said it like that. Ricky Martin, if you're bilingual, sometimes te trabas. You know. He sang Lo que le pasó a Hawaii fully in Spanish, which is very powerful. That song kind of also gives a hint to like what's going on in Puerto Rico right now, with a lot of people trying to gentrify and move to Puerto Rico to, benefit from the tax breaks or benefit from the beautiful land, the beautiful sites, whatever it may be. He sat in the classic white chairs that our culture really knows about from parties and, of course, from the cover art of the album. So, it was a historical moment for him to sing that song on such a national, global stage. And with the current times that are going on and with everything that came with, Bad Bunny being the performer, would I have selected? Yeah, I'm over here like if I'm the one selecting, but would I personally have wanted Ricky Martin to be the person to sing that song? Being transparent, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, just because I feel like we haven't heard from Ricky Martin in a long time. But again, I'm pretty sure it was very strategic. I'm glad that Ricky Martin was able to sing in Spanish. We know that early on in his career, he was kind of forced down the English pipeline of music. So I think it was refreshing. I think Ricky Martin, being a Latino himself, was powerful. Once again, it's just not something that I expected or a guest that I expected, but it was beautifully, classically, and timelessly done. So I really don't have any other comments for that. But overall, I feel like his entire performance was very much nostalgic. We got to see different phases of Latinidad being represented. There was a lot of vibrant colors. Everything was just so intentional and so specific and detailed. The colors that the dancers were wearing, the clothes that was selected, the field that they were in, like it was all just beautifully done. It was so classy. It really, really, really just reflected what the Latino culture is. And I really do think it was Bad Bunny's love letter to Puerto Rico and to the Latino culture. And it really challenged what America means and what America means in the United States and what people expect America to look like. Whether you liked it or not, I really believe it was intentional. I believe it was beautifully done. And I believe it's going to be a historic moment, not just for the NFL and the Super Bowl, but in the history books that we see in the future. So that was my take on the halftime performance show. Again, a big fan of it. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was beautiful. Bad Bunny, you're not looking at this, but you did an amazing job. But let us know what you thought about it. I know a lot of people shared, their opinions and shared what they felt, and we got to see people cry. We got to see people dance. It was beautiful, and I couldn't have wished for a better performance during these times. So classically done. And other than that, that was pretty much my 2 cents that no one asked for, but that I graciously shared. I hope you guys enjoyed the Super Bowl performance as much as I did. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.